Hello everyone, and welcome to our webinar on hacking APIs, Web API Pentesting Essentials. I'm Nandini Bharadwaj, the operating officer at CyberWarFare Labs, and I'm excited to have you all here with us today. So, let's get started. So, before we start, let me tell you about us. CWL is a leading cybersecurity infosec company offering comprehensive solution to help individual and organizations to develop essential cybersecurity skills. And our offering includes learning management system, that is LMS platform. It provides enroll in student with course study materials including HD videos and PDF for wide range of cybersecurity courses. The second one is CWL Cybersecurity Playground, that is CCSP platform. It offers a theme-based labs designed to simulate real-world scenarios. User can start their labs at their own convenience, providing flexible hands-on practice. Number third is Infinity Learning Platform. It's a plug and play platform offering immersive learning experience with challenges across red, blue, and cloud security domain. And CWL also support customized on-site training requests and accept bulk orders to corporate training needs. If you want to get more information or to place an inquiry, you can contact us at support@cyberwarfare.live. Dear participants, as promised, we are excited to share that you will receive your attendance certificate and video recording with the PDF material of the webinar. And along with that, participants who all are attending this webinar will get a guaranteed access of Certified Cybersecurity Analyst course, the Community Edition, enroll link in this webinar. So thank you for being part of this engaging session and we'll look forward for your continuous participation. And here, without further ado, I would like Kushagra, the speaker of this webinar, to take over and let's get started. Over to you, Kushagra.
Oh, hello everyone. Okay, so topic is hacking API, web API pen testing. So it's gonna be like first of all, I will start with theory. What is OWASP API top 10, and what is API, and then we will move forward with some vulnerable apps and some case findings. So who am I? I'm Kusag Srivastava and Internet CW Labs and interested in security. So first, this is a table of contents. Okay, so API is like API is for application programming interface. So API allows to and it act as a bridge. So two different network or two different software which are solely running on different components can interact with each other. So it can done through API. So we can take an example here. So imagine we having a payment server which is written in Golang and backend server for storing user data or in JavaScript. So with the help of API, we can communicate with each other's. So I guess there was some problem with the screen sharing. Now can you guys able to see my screen? Okay, yeah, sorry for that. So uh, I will start again. So API is for application programming interface. So it act as a bridge between two softwares or networks. So for example, we have a Golang server, uh, payment server, which is written in Golang, and we have another server which is using for storing user data, for example, name, password, and address, phone number. So it is written in JavaScript. So with the help of API, we can exchange data, we can communicate between two servers. So for example, there is user A and it subscribe to any subscription to like anything. So how that particular server which is written in Golang know that okay, so user is subscribe to this particular plan. So with the help of API, we can know that. So types of web APIs. So SOAP API, I will start with SOAP API. So SOAP API was before all REST and GraphQL. It is simple XML. It is XML format for exchanging the data. Then we have REST API. So REST API follows stateless client server architecture protocol, and we can see most of the HTTP method like get, post, put, delete options also. So in REST API, we say data exchange in the form of JSON or XML format. And we have GraphQL. So GraphQL is developed by Facebook for their own purpose. Now, companies also um, start using GraphQL APIs for their backend system, and it is also very convenient to use GraphQL or and REST API. So let me tell you something. So what happened was I was actually trying to create a lab, but there was some issue with lab. So my first, wait a second, wait, so lab was not working properly. So I will after like this session, I will try to find or how I approach like what is my method of finding the vulnerabilities in API. I will try to show a little bit of demo instead of solving particular labs after these topics. So um, if we are talking about API, so yes, everything is vulnerable. So API has also some security flaws. So we have OWASP like OS top 10. So in API, we have OWASP API top 10. So it is a set of security list where OWASP Foundation just analyze which vulnerability in API is so much common and which is highly P1, P2 like this kind of format. So latest version was top 23. So the first one is broken object level authorization. Then we have broken auth. Then we have broken object property level authorization and API for unrestricted resource consumption. So we will also like look these particular topics. And then we have broken function level authorization and unrestricted access to sensitive business flow. And we have traditional our vulnerability, which is SSRF, and security misconfiguration and improper inventory management. And last is unsafe consumption of API. So whatever in yellow, it is renamed, and this particular blue thing, it's merged. And these particular three things are new in was API 2023. So particular API 10, API 7, and API 6. Then what is BOLA? So some people call it BOLA or broken object level authorization. So when any person can, any authenticated or unauth user can access sensitive object or data, they are not authorized to access. So they are like servers. So every server they are like multiple functionalities. So what if some user access to others data? So this is BOLA in short. So in BOLA, we usually look for user ID or file ID, this or organization ID, this kind of parameters. So in simple, let's try to understand what is BOLA. So Sage is authenticated user and can make a API call to view her bank account or address. So this is simple API call is going on. Get version v secure API bank access and user ID 1990. So what we can see, this is the response from the server. So user ID, first name, last name, healer, and account balances. This is the account balance. So what if someone manipulate that request? And if I just by changing this particular ID from 1990 to 1992, we can see the account balance of uh, this Rena user. Just give me a sec. Let me see if you guys have any question. Right now. Okay. So after like manipulating this particular parameter, user ID parameter, we can see the account balance of others user and first name and last name. So this is a simple Bola case. Then we have broken authentication. So broken auth occur when an API authentication mechanism fail to protect user account or token. So in short, so we can understand it much better using use case. So credential stuffing attacks. So and the attacker use a database of leak username and password from some past leaks to automate the login attempts using Burpsuit Intruder or some script. So where we can look for these creds, so probably on dark web and some telegrams or breach forum or somewhere. So what we need to do, so this is the post request API login, and here's the username, password. We just need to select this particular username parameter and password, and just um, look from the past leaks. We can just brute force it or something. Now we actually have brute force attack here. So in brute force attack, attacker can send multiple username and password request from a wordless or dictionary tag. So for example, this is the post request on API login, and we can select this particular parameter victim if we know the username, or if we don't, so we also have to select this particular victim um, field as for the payload. Then we have password. So as we can see, so we are making 4 requests here. So victim, and the password is password. And so maybe uh, one password can be true, one password or no luck. Then we have JWT token. So JWT token is always interesting topic in API. So it is very intriguing because it requires like little bit understanding of how encryption works, and how, and even the best part of JWT token is you can even uh, find the vulnerability inside JWT token, which lead to SQL injection or command injection. So how JWT token works? So we have headers. So in headers field we have algorithm, which is HS256, or it can be any type of algorithm. Now we have type JWT. Then we have payload. Payload can contain multiple field like user ID, 123 role. Then we can include address or URL or many things as much we can in payload. And then we have signature. So signature is HMAC signature. We can also change how we want to encrypt that particular uh, JWT token. Then we have header, payload, and secret key. So secret key, so the vulnerability mostly occur in secret key or algorithm. So as I mentioned here, JWT is signed with a secret key and returned to the user. So if someone is using a weak secret key like admin or uh, 1 2 3 4 5 6, like this kind of combination, then yes, we can brute force the secret key. And in this particular like session, we will also see how we can brute force the session key, and how we can uh, make using the NaN algorithm, we can bypass the security. So I already talked about it, but we can see it here much better. So in first weak algorithm exploitation. So in weak algorithm exploitation, so if you see this particular algorithm, which is HS256, we only have to change it to none. And in role from duelist, we need to put like anything like duelist to sentinel, or if it is like user, we can make it admin, and then we have to blank the signature. Then it will work. So this vulnerability, I guess, um, some bug hunter found in some year back in Apple website, where he was able to take over the whole account. So key brute force or leakage. So as I already mentioned, we can brute force the secret key. So here the attack vector is secret key. Then we have broken object property level authorization. So this particular in OWASP 2023, excessive data exposure and mass assignment merge, and it become broken object property level authorization. So API often expose multiple endpoint with different privileged role. Various role like if we see any server, so we have multiple roles. We have admin, which is the owner of server. Then we have mods, which actually monitor everything. Then we have user. Then we have guest. So if it is the server is not properly configured, then a normal user, which is like user one or user two, can do action behalf of the admin or behalf of the other users. So we have excessive data exposure. So for example, I request for something, API user profile and username is equal to raise, and then server just start giving me bunch of information like email address where race is like currently located and why it is credit returning the credit card info. And in simple explanation, client, hey, what's your name? And server, hey, I'm Race, I'm duelist, I have one it and it is ready, and my card number is this. So this is the example of excessive data exposure. Then we have mass assignment. So in mass assignment, a user can particular add the object, and without proper validation, server just process it and accept it like particularly store it in the database. So what if like we have normal request? So it is like post API update user. So username is Jet and email is this particular thing, jet@duelist.com. Then what if an attacker just put role admin or role moderator or anything, and servers without any proper validation, it just process it, and now the Jet is admin now of the server. So then we have unrestricted resource consumption. So unrestricted resource consumption is mostly like DOS vulnerabilities or application level DOS vulnerability, which like uploading a files which crash the server or which overwhelm the server and it make it unresponsive. So in definition, we can see occurs when API allow excessive use of resources like CPU memory bandwidth without proper limited control. So we know like if server is running, so it is running on a proper so it have particular dedicated CPU, limited CPU memory or bandwidth. So what if attacker able to uh, overload it, and what if after overloading it will probably crash the servers, which interrupt the business or any type of functionality. So even attacker can bypass the API remit, which allow him to abuse two functions. First one is he can continue overloading the server by making request, and sometimes provider have paid subscription for making API request. Like if many time what happen is most of the application or like Spotify have their own developer option where I'm not sure if Spotify have developer option which is paid, but we can take a case. So there's a like company Spotify, so they have provide APIs to the developers. So if attacker can bypass the API rate limit, so he can also abusing two functionality. First one is bypassing API rate limit, and second thing is his that API is like paid. You cannot make more than 100 requests in a 1 day or in a 1 hour. So you can also bypass. So it is also kind of include. It is also vulnerability. So use case unlimited OTP requests. So we see whenever we try to sign in, uh, server make a request to the particular API and it send back a OTP. And when we enter that particular OTP, server validate it's if the OTP is right or wrong. So what if there's no any rate limit on that particular API endpoint? So attacker can abuse it, and after abusing, he just not overwhelm the server. He also uh, annoyed the particular user where the OTP is he's sending to. So now we have zip bomb exploitation. So this one is little bit uh, very what we can say uh, fun thing to do. Not fun thing to do. To be honest, it is very um, crazy vulnerability we can say. So an API accept the file upload for processing such as unzipping. So we see like there's on many online provider which allow us to just upload the file and it will unzip that particular zip file and you can just download that all files inside that zip. So what if we just make a zip bomb of it? So this particular 10 KB uh, file have size of 10 MB or something. So we can also see how we can do this after this particular session. And then we have broken function level authorization. So broken function level authorization occur when API fail to enforce proper permission for specific action or function. So allowing unauthorized user or low privilege role to access or perform operation they should not permission for. So we can understand it in much better way in this particular slide. So um, as I told you, if their server is running, so there are multiple role inside that particular servers or website. For example, I am admin, and then if it is a form, so we have admin, then we have moderator, then in under moderator section we have particular writers and particular viewers, then we have guest. So in horizontal privilege escalation, so it is like user one, user two, user three. So attacker is user one, and he can do action behalf of the user two and user three. So this is horizontal privilege escalation. And what is vertical? So in vertical, we have a low level user and we have admin. So if this particular low level user can perform action behalf of the admin, then it considered as a vertical privilege escalation. So for example, there is a particular server where admin can delete an other's photo or something. So admin have all the access. So what if I'm a normal user or I'm a malicious user, and I can also do action behalf of the admin, which include deleting someone profiles pics or something. Then we have unrestricted access to sensitive business flow. We see the chats. Okay. So now we have unrestricted access to sensitive business flow. So this vulnerability arises when an API exposes critical business operation overflow without enforcing proper auth check for or restriction. So attacker can exploit these and sensitive functionality leading to financial loss, database or business logic manipulation. So for this unrestricted access to sensitive business flow, so uh, what happen like to understand it in better way. So like there's a one mobile application which have this particular functionality. Whenever you user try to delete his profile or delete his account, there's at last if we see the Instagram or something, we always see wherever we try to delete our account or deactivate our account, so Instagram just asks for why are you deleting or what is the reason behind it. So there's a let's try to understand it using raw. Okay, yeah, sorry. So like application, and now we want to delete our profile. So uh, when I visited that delete page, it just make an API request. So just to save the user, what company policy is, just go to that account. We will offer trial. We will offer paid subscription for free. Uh, so offer paid subscription for free for 1 or 2 weeks. So what if attacker find a way and save that API, whatever the API call was made at that time, and after like uh, his paid offer is over, his paid trial is over, he just continue making that particular API. Um, he just continuously making request to that particular API, continuously increasing that trial period. So yes, it is possible. So this particular thing happened in Bumble or some dating app back in 2019 or 2020. So what happened was person was trying to delete his profile and they just offer 1 day paid subscription. So what he did was he just recurring after his trial over, he just recurring this particular method and he just continuously increasing his subscription. Then we have server-side request forgery. So we already know about, like most of the people know about OWASP Web Top 10. They have server-side request forgery. So in API, we also have server-side request forgery. So what happens is when an API fetch or make a request to a remote resource without validating the user supplied query. So user supplied query is very important in any part of the web application or any part of any application development. So user can input any malicious input like SQL queries or command injection queries or a particular URL, which, and if server does not validate, it can make request back to the internal network or AWS. console or whatever the service is running on. So we can see what and why. So what resource refer to an external or internal service system or endpoint that is server access over a network, and why attacker can request the below resources. So in external resource, he can fetch for public API, third-party server, web page, and then we have internal resource, so internal database, cloud metadata, and he can get the AWS key or Microsoft Entra ID, or he can also access to the private API which is not accessible through uh, which is only accessible through the internal network. So for example, if any server is running, so it probably have some their internals API which can be only accessible by the particular internal API or dedicated host. So yes, if attacker can bypass the or abuse the SSRF, he can abuse this functionality and able to get he can able to get access to the AWS key, which lead him to get into the servers and exfiltrate the data and keys. So SSRF is still reliable in that API also. So attacker can manipulate the server request. So attacker craft malicious request to force the server to connect to intended internal or external endpoints. He can also bypass network protection. Like if there is if server is using firewall, so firewall is mostly for outside for the user who is not uh, uh, firewall is for um, securing the server from the outside threat. But if attacker can abuse the SSRF, he can bypass firewall also. And using chaining the exploit, he can use SSRF to pivot and launch further attacks such as lateral movement. If he's inside a one server, he can using lateral movement he can escalate or change a role from one server to another, which lead to comprise the whole organization. Then we have this case. So like for example, there's a get request going on and there's a API fetch and it's taking the URL parameter. So what if attacker can make request to this particular internal domain or internal local network, and he can able to expose or get access the data of it. And then in the second case, what if attacker can extract the API key from the AWS. Then we have security misconfiguration. So when an API is not properly configured, so like okay, so yeah, it's missing. So I will fix it. So it's yeah, it's my bad. So in API security misconfiguration, so we have a chorus vulnerability cross. Yeah, wait a second. Okay, so security misconfiguration occur when an API developed with insecure setting and missing patches or default configuration, exposing them to potential exploitation. So misconfiguration can exist in multiple levels, including API server, database, or cloud environment. So, and in particular first case, so expose management interface, an attacker discover a public accessible API management interface that use default credential to log in and take over the system. So what happens is in this particular case, so if there's a large organization like Verizon Media, so they have particular many servers and many servers running on some of them are private, some of them maybe like by mistake public. And most of the time what happens is they use default credentials. So if an attacker able to get the management interface of that particular API platform, he can take over the system. So then we have improper chorus misconfiguration, and then we have verbose error message. So what happens is even in API, if we type if we try to fuzz it and we enter some random data, like for example, let's see. So if we start putting some random data, so what happens is server throw error, which include showing the internal path APIs keys or stack traces, which allow attackers to know that what if he's able to find the local file inclusion, then he knows now what is the actual path, actual internal path. So with the with the help of changing the particular exploit and vulnerability, he can move further. Then we have uh, improper inventory management. So improper inventory management refer to failure of properly track, secure, or and manage API, including endpoint version and deployment. So, for example, if there's a server, so I guess I have this example. Okay, yeah, we have example. So, if there's any website or any server is running, so they have probably multiple platform, even for API, even for normal their website. So they have staging, beta, and alpha, like this kind of platform. So whatever API version running in that particular current platform, they have actually backup of it, and they have actually beta API server also, where they test the new feature and what can be improved in the API, where they try to optimize these response between server and client. So with the help of changing the API version from right now the current version in any web server is version 3, API version 3. So what if attacker can downgrade the version from version 2 or from version 3 to version 2 or version 1, and he is able to bypass that particular security check. So we can understand it in much better way. So there's like API version 1 and version 3, and get data of particular user 1, for example. Now, if I make a request on this particular API endpoint, so it will be like forbidden. And what if I know like I'm trying to force the server, and I just found, okay, so they are using version 3, so maybe they might have version 1 or version 1.1 something, and I just change it to 4, which is still vulnerable, but they forget to remove that particular API endpoint, and I am getting 200 okay for that. So this is the like easy use case, and it is still, believe me, very relevant if you are doing API pen testing or bug bounty. So our multi API version. So as I told you, so the company can have multiple API version, and version 3 is secure. So what happened is there was some vulnerability in API version 1 in this particular endpoint. So there's moved to version 2, and someone able to bypass version 2 also. So they moved to version 3. So version 3 is completely secure, but companies just forget to remove it from their server. So as an attacker, I can still make that particular, I can still make a request to this version 1 and abuse their functionality and undocumented test endpoint. So what happened is it's this particular undocumented test endpoint is mostly you can find it from fuzzing the web server. So during testing, developer deploy an API endpoint test debug to validate the server response. The endpoint accidentally make it to production, revealing sensitive internal logs. So as we know, mistakes happen, and server is very big. Like even I'm testing in something in beta platform. So maybe yeah, I have this particular endpoint test debug, and I just forget to remove it and push it to prod. So there's an attacker or there's a like web security researcher, and he's testing for vulnerabilities and just able to find this particular endpoint, and he with this particular endpoint he can now have the same access like other developers. So now we have unsafe consumption of APIs. So if you think traditional OS vulnerability does not exist in API, just you are wrong. API are still equally vulnerable to classic web attack like SQL injection, command injection, and dependency risk. So, for example, if yeah, so we can see from this example. Give me a sec. Okay, so for example, we have unsafe congestion of APIs. So there's a request going on. API is weather city London. So this is a simple request, nothing wrong with it. So what if I'm an attacker and just complete the queries, or that particular this particular API endpoint is vulnerable to SQL injection or command injection. So what I can do is just simple complete this query and try to drop the tables user, and just it will drop the whole database. It will, sorry, not whole database. It will drop the whole user tables. And we have command injection vulnerability in API also. So for example, this is the best way to understand it. So for example, there is a request going on API version 1 or API version 3 that is secure, and then we have a company, now name is equal to something. So what if I just try to put ls or ampersand ls, or so most of the time, so yeah, you have to understand this. Using this particular ls command, server will not go, sometimes server will suppress this output, and it will not gonna show these particular things. So instead of this, what you can do, you can particular ping a IP, or ping the bug collaborator IP, or you can try to netcat with particular bug collab or something, which make much more sense instead of doing ls or who am I. So these are the resource for doing testing. So we have this tool Kaido. It is very good tool if you are into manual pen testing. So just remember this. Manual is always gonna beat automation test. And if you are like a person who is like doing one bug bounty or web pen testing, so it is always better to understand how actually things work. So first start with manual pen testing, then move to tools which is automated completely. Now we had this particular three labs. So as I told you, we will right now we will focus on some labs, and lab is not working properly. So forgive me about it. So let's try this particular thing first. And now if we try to visit it, if you guys are able to see my screen, please let me know. Or if you guys have any like trouble seeing the screen. Okay, yeah, perfect. So let me just bring it here. Okay, so this is the particular challenge link. It is, so what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna copy and try to look for in JWT. So it is invalid signature, and if I send it, so it will be valid. Okay, yeah, perfectly fine. So this is the JWT token, right? And now we will use this particular null algorithm. So for this, what we're gonna do is either we can use Pursuit or we can use terminal. So for in this case, I'm gonna use Pursuit, or much better, just simple algorithm none. It is not working. Okay. 64, and now we're gonna send it to none. And as I mentioned already, so we had to remove the signature. So after removing the signature, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna re-encode it in basic. So we have this particular thing, and if I send something wrong, like if I remove the signature from here and then try to send it, it's gonna throw the error. But if the JWT is right, so it will just simply tell it, okay, yeah, perfectly fine. So let's try it. Okay, yeah, we are getting error. Yeah, I'm just doing it live, so I'm not sure if it is not working. Then I'm gonna show this particular. So for example, we have this token, so I'm gonna try to brute force it also. So from this particular case, anything can be worked. So all we need is like focusing on exploitation part. So for this, I'm gonna use hashcat. So okay, it is too large even for me. So I'm gonna use hashcat hyphen a now, simple, and then we have to provide the word list. JWT secrets, and now, so it's gonna start. Uh, and now we have it finished cracking this particular JWT secret. So let's see. So the secret is this. The secret is also secret. So what we can do is, we can simply just copy paste it and paste it here, and here we can just type secret, and now we can change any data here, like hello admin, and if we try to paste it and send it back on this server, it will validate it, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, so it is validating. I am not sure why it is not validating this. uh, this is the link. Let me try it again. Keyword as P64. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just re-encode it in base64, this part. Let's try. Okay, yeah, so either I know I'm doing something wrong here. That is why it is not working. And so about the particular other thing, yeah, it's for zip bomb. Let me. Okay, so yeah, so this is the particular command, and let me just move to it, and okay, let's zip bomb. And instead of 10,000, let me supply like I'm not gonna overflow it, and my file. And now if you see the size, so the size is only 98 KB. And let's try to unzip it and see what will be the size of that particular uh, file inside this particular zip form. Now the size is 98, right? 98 MB from KB, it is 98. So let's try to increase the size to one more zero. It's gonna take some times. Uh, so now, as we can see, we just um, uh, compress the 1 GB. So now the size is 971 KB, so it is still less than 1 MB. Let me just delete this particular file. Yep. Okay, yeah, let's see it again. So yeah, it is still less than 1 MB. Let's try to unzip it. It's gonna take some time. So now we can see the size is 977 MB. So what will happen if I try to upload this particular zip form to any server which process zip files or something and is unzip it, and we just overload what as an attacker. We just fill it with like 0000. So now it will just make a zip form, and all I do is to upload it on server. And now let's see. And so let's try to do some labs. I guess 16 is much better. If you guys have like trouble to see 16, I can change it to whatever you want. So this is the particular API. So let's try to sign up. I'm gonna so let's try to fill up all this detail here, and um, we get this email. Let's try to capture this particular request. So register successful. Now we can just log back in. Um, so yeah, I also want to tell you something which I found while I was with Bug Hunter. Ex- It is very old blog, but still it is very good finding. Like, for me, it was very good. So in there was an organization which allow a company to post the job posting. So let me open up the Excel intro. So what happened in that particular case? So there's like a platform which allow anyone to register as a company and post a job posting. So there are like multiple company one, company two, company one, and we have company three, right? So I created a job posting for that particular for my company. It was just a demo. So actually, it was not a staging platform. It was a production server. So after like filling up everything, so we have this particular API endpoint. So get API jobs and this particular uh, numeric ID. So I tried to view the others uh, company's detail also. So I got 403. So it was simple like that. Okay, just so it was simple. I was making get request. I don't know. Okay, so yeah, so simple. I was making get request to API job, and there was some like numeric number. Okay, so there was some numeric number 123, and if 123 belongs to my organization, yes, I can probably view it. But if the same thing happens and I'm trying to view some other organization which is like lead, so I get 403. It is not possible. Like 403 forbidden. You are not authorized to particular view date endpoint. So what I did was simple change that get request to delete. Now this particular uh, ID like 1337 is gone, completely gone. So I deleted it from the database server, from the API server. So I was able to delete any page just by changing the request. So as you can see, I got 204 for it. So even if I want to just like completely empty or uh, delete any organization, I can. So this is why API rate limiting rate limiting is important, and proper authorization check is also important. And there were also bug which I found in a company. So it was a program actually. So sorry for that, right? So they were like there's a case finding. So let me change the color. So I have this company, right? So I can register with the particular this bug crowd domain. So it was a private program. So I registered as a bug hunter, and I got access to that bug, bugcrowd dot example dot com, bugcrowd dot example dot com. And what I had to do, I had to just register my bugcrowd alias domain. So in that particular website, there was multiple functionality. So I can create a project. So so I can particular create a project. So inside that project, if I am creating a project, so until unless only admin can see it, and I can see it, not any other users. So there are like multiple users and multiple like bug hunters was also there in that particular program. So like user X, X means 1 2 3 2 so on. So I can create a project there, and in that particular project, I can draw things. It was simple like Miro. So it was same like uh, Miro website. So I can draw things. I can upload the images. I can modify the images. So this was the simple functionality. I can even, if I want to share that particular project with someone, I can just make it password protected. So what I did was, so I'm still here. So there was like requests going on like API, some things like something, and it was 1 2 3 4. So there's a also feature on that website to archive any project. So all I need to do is just change the ID, and I was able to archive any others user project. Not only this, there was also functionality in that particular website to upload a images from the website, from the other website. So all I need to do is host a web server and up like on my VPS or somewhere. So after hosting the web server, I can make a script which redirect that particular endpoint to the local host. So if I'm trying to access that particular local host or 127.0.1, so I got like it was actually showing that some messages. I'm not sure because it was very old program. So after like uploading that redirection script, I was able to get the actual. I was able to redirect that um, server which was running locally on the API backend. So let's say I'm okay. So I'm listed as John. So if I visit particular this, so we can see like on this particular author endpoint. So let me just send it to repeater. So in this particular author endpoint, we have like okay, name is fine. So we have email, okay, it's fine. Okay, so we have phone number. Why we have phone number? But in that particular UI, we only see name, about, job. So we have name, about, and job. So why we need that particular email and phone number? So it is showing excessive data. So it is it's considered in our top 10 vulnerabilities. Then if I let me log out and create another account. So test.com. Then we have attacker 123. So it will gonna be same as password also. Attacker registered successfully, and let me just try to log. So I'm logged in here right now. So we can see there's like simple website. There's nothing much except this particular endpoint. And what if I'm trying to change it to something like admin? So now we can see the admin URL also. So this one considered as a BOLA broken object level authorization. Uh, it is API OS top in top one. So now we have this particular ID of that admin also. Let's try to explore some other functionality. So we can change the name like test name. Now we just change to anything .com website. So let's try to see what actually it is making. So I'm gonna use netget here in this example. Okay. What is the IP of this particular machine? Oh yeah. So this is the IP, and let's try to connect it. HTTP 8520 and the current password. So what's my current password? As an attacker 23. So new password is also gonna be same as now. It's making this particular request. And if we see the our netcat, so it the reason why it is hanging because it is connected to our netcat. So we can see what user agent it is using. So it is using Node.js at least. So this particular version. So if we even find now we know what actually in backend server is using. So now we know like it is using Node.js. So we can if I'm trying to find RC, so I can use like in Python. I have an idea. I have no idea about Node.js. So we can simply like import OS, then OS dot system and ping that or get reverse connection from that particular um, endpoint. So okay, let me just close it now. Okay, yeah, so updated successfully. So if we see here, so we have this particular hash. So what if I just try to check and send it to, so it's saying status update. So let's try to access the admin endpoint, admin account. Okay, so now we can even able to access the admin account also. So now we can even able to change the admin password. So it lead to account takeover. So what I did is simply after uh, like changing the vulnerability from admin endpoint, I was able to get the ID. Then while updating my account, they using ID parameter which is cacheable and which is very short length, and by replacing it with any others users inside that particular server, I can able to take over their account or change their password, name, and email. So this is the how you approach if you are hunting for. And here we can see also we have now full access to the server. So now we are admin, so we can do anything. So this is how you actually hunt for vulnerabilities in APIs. So not only this, you can also use okay. So spoiler alert: never run this type of command in your host. Uh, so most of the time, you also have to create your own word list if you are doing API hacking. So what I did, I created that but this particular folder which have uh, endpoint. So I can just in Pursuit I can just select that particular parameter and just fuzz it. And I have my own word list for testing the APIs, which is quite large as compared to others. So it's all about how your own methodology and how you are processing with um, your own like how you are processing while testing for API. So everyone have different methodology, different attacks. Some of people don't follow OWASP; they just blindly look for vulnerability. So it's still fine, and it's all about. So whenever you are trying to hunt for any APIs, like any bugs. So the first thing I will say, you have to understand the functionality of the web server, what actually web server is, and how actually they are performing, and how actually it is handling the request. So after like, so Pursuit have this feature, but there's like some extension where you can list like make a list of every API endpoint. So after like fetching every endpoint, just see what are the functionality and try to um, understand how logic implemented in that particular server. So this is how you can perform with API exploitation. And last, if you guys have any question, please let me know. I'm happy to answer you. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen at this moment. So I will. It's 7:16 for me. I will close this particular session at 7:20. So you guys have 4 minutes. You can ask anything, not related to only web. You can ask IoT, and if you want to get into expert vulnerability research or anything. Yeah, you can. I see Avinash K. I want to ask something. You can type in chat if you want. Let me repeat myself again. If you guys have any question related to web or mostly like Windows internals or vulnerability research or embedded hacking, so please let me know, or you can just send that particular question on email also. Okay, sorry. So I didn't saw the questions. The reason is I am very new to go to webinar. So yeah, sorry for that. The complete roadmap for so there is no any, to be honest, there is no any roadmap. All you need to do is just start solving labs. So there are like multiple labs from OWASP and OWASP and what is it? Yeah, Portugal. So after like solving labs, just try to jump to the real websites. So if you are not jumping or you're not testing on the real website, so there is no point of only solving labs. So just you have to know the basic idea, like how actually API performs and what are the vulnerabilities I can look in that particular endpoints and in that feature. So if like some API which is uploading in URL, so what vulnerability you wanna look for? So probably SSRF. This is the thing I will say. What kind of foundation basic will do you recommend to learn before going into API hacking? So just basic knowledge about HTTP methods and how to use Burpsuit and Postman. That's it, to be honest. And some hack tricks blogs and some old case study from HackerOne or Bugcrowd. So this is all you can do. So keep reading write-ups from the past of the past bugs or the past vulnerabilities. I want to ask how AI will change the method and terminology in hacking. So AI also uh, getting dominated in this field, to be honest. Probably in also vulnerability research, and yeah, it will soon going to like it is very helpful if you like using AI, so you get to understand logic in much better way and what are the attacks you can perform on that particular APIs or endpoints. Is there any certificate for attending the webinar? Yes. Find API vulnerability in case of GraphQL, it is same as SOAP. Yes. No, for GraphQL use different queries, so you have to understand. So there is also very good book on GraphQL hacking. Let me see if I can find it. GraphQL hacking. Yeah, it is from No Stars. You can give it a shot. I shared it with you in the chat. Yes, for in the like initial stage, you have to perform things manually so that you can get better idea of the functionality of the websites or anything like even if you're touching like anything, just start with like understanding how actually thing works. Otherwise, there's no point of using automated tool at the initial stage. So if you guys don't have any question, so I can close this webinar, right? Please let me know. Kali Linux is enough for beginners or other OS. So it is not about Kali Linux. Even I personally don't use Kali or any tools. I just stick with Fedora. It just get your work done. So if it is OS which just you are comfortable with, just go with it. There's like even Windows is a much better choice these days because of to do SL and VM support. Yeah. So see you guys next time. Thank you for watching this.